You once warned someone about something, and then it happened exactly as you said it would, but instead of thanking you, they blamed you for bringing bad luck. That was never your fault. It was a soul debt you've carried across lifetimes, the debt of someone who awakened too early in a world still fast asleep. And if you're an Aquarius, you know that feeling was never just a coincidence. You weren't born to please anyone. Your soul was programmed to disrupt old systems, to question everything others take for granted, and to see the future even while the rest of the world remains stuck in the present. But with that vision came a silent sentence: isolation. No one truly understands you. And the most painful part is, they don't even realize you were trying to help. If you've ever asked yourself why you are always being pushed aside, why you feel alone even in the middle of a crowd, why you can analyze everything yet still can't explain the ache of loneliness sitting quietly in your chest, then you are carrying a very specific kind of karma, a karma that doesn't show itself through physical pain, but through invisible cuts to your trust and faith. You're not just different, you are someone encoded with a blueprint for the future in a world that hasn't updated itself to receive it. On this journey, you won't hear soft affirmations. You'll hear truth about soul debts, planetary signatures, and how you can survive Pluto's long passage through your sign without falling apart. This message is for those brave enough to look back, not outward, but deep within. And if you stay until the end, you won't just understand your karma, you'll know how to lead yourself through it. And if you've ever thought, maybe I'm just being too sensitive, you weren't imagining things. Every wave of loneliness, every time you were pushed aside, every moment you asked yourself, what did I do wrong? They all stem from something much deeper. They didn't begin here. They began in a soul journey that stretches far beyond this lifetime. And to truly understand the karma of Aquarius in this life, we have to go back to where it all began. There are certain souls who, through countless incarnations, continue to carry an invisible genetic code, a kind of energetic memory that cannot be named or erased. Aquarius is one of them. You weren't just born with a different kind of intelligence. You carry within you the spiritual imprint of things that were burned, rejected, and buried throughout human history. You've lived lifetimes where you had to break molds, speak truths no one dared to speak, and pay the price through exile, persecution, even death, simply because you dared to be different. Those memories no longer have a clear shape, but they live on in a constant sensation. I've been here before, and I was cast out of the very place I came to help. That sense of not belonging didn't start in this lifetime. It's reawakened every time you walk into a space and your heart instantly knows this place has no room for your light. And so you shrink, even before anyone pushes you away. Your soul is like a device that's already been updated, yet it's forced to run in an outdated operating system. You see flaws, you see injustice, you see the misalignments embedded in collective patterns, but each time you speak up, you're labeled difficult, disruptive. Your deepest wound doesn't come from being attacked. It comes from that moment of recognition. No one wants to listen, even when you're only trying to help. So you choose silence, not because you don't know what to say, but because you've grown too used to being ignored. But that silence is the true karma you carry, a subtle, invisible kind, because it happens inside you, day after day. You've had chances to speak, but you stepped back. You saw what was wrong, but stayed on the sidelines. You could have led, but you retreated, afraid of being hurt one more time. The karma of Aquarius is not about punishment from the outside world. It's the inner conflict that arises every time you don't speak up for something that deeply needs to change. Your soul has been a revolutionary, a seed planter for new societies, but when no one was ready, you were cast out like a misfit. You didn't just lose a role, you lost faith in connection itself. And from that, you built a fortress of sharp intellect around yourself so no one could get in. You became excellent at analysis, at holding people at arm's length, but forgot how to receive something as simple as a real, heartfelt embrace. Beneath that armor still lives a child of light, who once shone freely and was wounded because of it. A soul that once trusted goodness, believed in the beauty of things. You once radiated without trying until it hurt, and then you began to hide your light. You buried it beneath language, beneath logic, beneath social roles. You walk through life like someone who understands everything, but no longer knows how to feel themselves. Not everyone who carries karma realizes they do, but if you're an Aquarius, and you've felt yourself seeing too deeply, feeling too much, understanding too early, yet walking alone, then that's the sign. You're carrying a part of your soul's memory that has yet to be released, and now is the time to reclaim it. Not to blame, not to relive the past, but to liberate it. Because soul debt can't be paid in tears. It can only be cleared by the choice to rise again. Even if your heart still trembles, even if your hands still bleed, even if no one understands you yet, if the light still lives inside you, then so does the path. A soul journey may begin in a distant past, but to decode the karma of this lifetime, we must look at a more precise map, the map of the planets. Because the Aquarian soul does not walk alone. Every step you take, every emotion you experience, is activated by invisible engines named Uranus, Saturn, and Pluto. Let's begin with Uranus, the ruling planet of Aquarius. Uranus is unlike any other. It spins sideways, tilted off its axis, defying the order of the solar system itself. Just like you, never born to conform, but to disrupt and redefine. Uranus sharpens your intuition, stretches your mind beyond the present, and fills you with visions the world hasn't caught up with yet. But it also isolates you, placing you on a frequency most people cannot hear. The karma of Uranus is the karma of awakening. It compels you to see ahead, but doesn't always give you the power to act. You see the broken systems, the flawed thinking, the cycles of pain that repeat. Yet when you speak, they call you extreme, unstable, or ungrounded. Uranus gives you the vision, but not the agreement. And that's why many Aquarians choose silence or wear a mask of cool detachment to hide what they know. Then there's Saturn, the co-ruler of Aquarius. Saturn is the sternest teacher in the cosmos, delivering lessons in limits, responsibility, and soul-level maturity. Saturn doesn't hand out rewards early, but its gifts last a lifetime. If Uranus opens the future, Saturn tests your discipline to walk through it. And your karma is to hold both, to lead revolution without recklessness, to bring change without losing your roots. Saturn casts you as the carrier of ideals. You speak of humanity, evolution, collective healing. But in your own life, you may not know how to keep a relationship from falling apart. You can inspire a generation, but sometimes fail to hold on to one person. This is your karmic paradox. How to carry a message meant for the world without misplacing the heart it came from. And then comes Pluto, the soul's great excavator. From 2023 to 2043, Pluto travels through Aquarius, initiating a 20-year cycle where the world will be forced to awaken in the ways you've always envisioned. But during this time, you're no longer allowed to stand at the edge. Pluto doesn't move gently. It doesn't offer grace. It delivers truth. It forces you to confront, to break, and to rebuild. If Uranus gives you the vision, and Saturn measures your endurance, Pluto strips you bare of every illusion you've ever clung to. Pluto offers no sentiment, no softness. It doesn't care how hard you've tried. It only asks, are you willing to let go of what once helped you survive, but no longer fits who you are? It pushes you to the edge of belief, identity, career, and even love. Everything that once defined you will be shaken. Not as punishment, but as the universe's way of bringing you back to who you were, before the world told you to hide. When Pluto begins peeling back every outer layer of who you thought you were, you'll see it more clearly than ever. The deepest pain you carry doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from your own mind. You don't just see what's broken in society, you shine a light into the darkest corners of yourself with the cold precision of intellect. And sometimes that becomes the heaviest karma of Aquarius, knowing too much and forgetting how to feel. Aquarius lives mostly in the mind. You dissect your own emotions as if analyzing a data set. You know exactly when you're angry and why. You can understand someone else's pain, sometimes even more clearly than they do. But the more skilled you become at explaining what you feel, the further you drift from actually feeling it. And slowly you lose the ability to simply be sad, to be soft, to just need a hug, with no explanation at all. You say, I need freedom, but often it's just a way to keep people at a safe distance. You choose relationships that don't go too deep, because the ones that truly reach you could also truly change you. And change means tearing down the inner armor you've worn through years of solitude. It's not love you fear. It's losing the part of yourself that once kept you safe. The cost of seeing the ending while others are still at the beginning is that you can never truly start with anyone. You feel the cracks while others are still smiling. You read the unspoken line. You hear rejection in a tone that still sounds kind. And so you go quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you know they're not ready to hear it yet. This is the karma of a mind that lives ahead of its time, trapped in the loneliness of its own awareness. You can't pretend not to see. You can't pretend not to understand. But you also can't keep carrying the weight of a world too rough to meet you with truth. And so you begin to ask yourself, I understand everything, but why do I still feel so alone? The deepest loneliness doesn't come from having no one around. It comes from being unable to fully show up even when someone's sitting right next to you. You hear their voice, but don't see yourself in the conversation anymore. You view everything from a higher floor, but that floor is silent. It's where no one else seems to reach. And that's why your soul keeps whispering one thing: connection that's real, without defense. You once thought loneliness was just your personal burden, but it's not. Your soul carries a mission far greater than the individual self. What you're feeling isn't just the isolation of one person. It's the echo of a soul carrying a piece of karma that belongs to an entire era. And to understand that, you have to begin seeing yourself as part of the evolutionary stream. Aquarius doesn't carry a private, isolated karma. You are the intersection point between the old and the new, where outdated social structures begin to fracture, where long-held systems start to crumble, and where future solutions first begin to form. You are the bridge, the in-between, the one holding the light, even when that light blinds those who aren't ready to see. Your collective karma is to awaken humanity, but ironically, to do that, you must first walk through the pain of being cast out from the very place you tried to help save. You speak of community, of humankind, of evolution. But when you need someone to truly see you, there's often no one close enough to reach. You see the blueprint for a new society, but inside your own home, you struggle to hold a connection together. That is the quiet tragedy of a soul carrying the karma of an entire generation. You bring ideas, but the world doesn't yet have the language to receive them. You bring solutions, but they don't even know they have a problem, and so you begin to wonder, is it worth it, planting seeds in a field that refuses to open? But if you stop now, who will speak the truths the world has never dared to name? The truth is, you don't need to be understood. You don't need praise. You don't need a cheering crowd to walk beside you. Because a true guide doesn't demand respect. They simply live as an example. And when the world finally slows down to listen, it will realize you were the signal it kept tuning out. You carry light, not to shine it on others, but to keep yourself from getting lost in the dark of your own isolation. You're not strange. You're simply the blueprint of a future that hasn't arrived yet. And that's why you weren't made to fit in. You were made to open paths, to clear the way, and to make truth heard, even when no one is ready to receive it. You've come a long way on this journey. You've stepped back, observed, endured, and stayed silent. But there are moments when silence is no longer an option, when Pluto touches the very core of your soul, when every old identity begins to crumble, when the light inside you becomes too urgent to hide, then you either rise or implode from within. This is the breaking point. You once believed you needed more time, but no. The time has come, and it's no longer waiting for you. The universe is calling you forward, not to please anyone, but to stand for what's right, even if your voice trembles as you do. You can no longer say, I'm not ready, because you've been prepared across lifetimes, with a piercing gaze, an empathic heart, and the kind of intuition that always knows when something is off. You don't need more time. You need to choose. You need to dare to live in the light you've spent so long hiding. If you don't speak, the world will keep spinning in chaos. If you don't write what you know, who will be the one to question the system? If you don't live your truth, who will show the world that a freer, kinder, more awakened way of living is even possible? This is no longer just about you. This is a choice that affects the thousands of other souls waiting to be lit. You can't move forward wearing the same old masks, the relationships that make you shrink, the jobs that suffocate you, the versions of yourself that are just good enough to survive, but not real enough to feel alive. All of it is falling away. You're not falling apart. You're coming back to life. Yes, change hurts, but not changing will rot you from within, trapped in your own unexpressed awakening. And that is the real pain, because nothing cuts deeper than knowing you were made to be light and choosing instead to stay a shadow just to fit in. This eruption hasn't come to destroy you. It's here to remind you you weren't born to live as a copy. You came to be the beginning of something never seen before. And that can only begin the moment you choose to step forward. Once the light inside you has shattered every shell, the question is no longer who am I, but rather, how do I live with this light now? Knowing your karma is one thing, liberating yourself from it is another. And if you truly want to move forward, not just to awaken but to be truly free, then you have to begin with the smallest things. Small, yet powerful enough to shift the entire frequency of your life. Healing your karma isn't a grand journey of purging your soul through tears. It's a series of incredibly specific choices. To stop turning your back on yourself. Start with something small. Write a personal manifesto. 5 things you believe to be true, even if no one agrees. They don't need to be beautiful. They don't need to align with society. They only need to be true for who you are right now. Then, quietly step away from a relationship that forces you to perform every time you show up. No need for drama, just the courage to withdraw your energy from a place that's draining your soul. You'll see, freedom isn't about cutting ties with the world. It's about cutting ties with the false versions of yourself. Do something creative that you once abandoned out of fear it was out of sync. Not for success, not to prove anything, but simply to remind yourself you're still alive. You're still touching something that makes you feel joy. And when you create something from your soul, you send a signal to the universe, I'm ready to reconnect. And if you're not ready to share with others, then begin by talking to yourself, as you would with a dear friend. No judgment, no pressure to heal, just one gentle question each morning. How do I truly feel today? Then listen, without needing to explain. Another way to reconnect is to meditate with the image of your future self. Close your eyes, place your hand over your heart. Imagine you, clear, free, whole, smiling back at who you are now. And ask, am I living in alignment with the person I want to become? If the answer is no, then don't wait for a miracle. Become it. Be the one you were waiting for. When you dare to listen to yourself, to rise from truth, and to walk a path no one has laid out for you, your karmic healing has already begun. But the universe didn't give you light just to keep it hidden. It placed that light in your hands so you could illuminate the way for those still lost in the same darkness you once walked through. And that is your mission. Aquarius, you don't need to become someone else to be loved. But you also can't keep shrinking and call it freedom. Light wasn't made to be hidden. It was made to guide, quietly but steadily. And if anyone is waiting for you to turn on that light, it's the truest version of you. You are the bridge between the old and the new, between a world breaking apart from fear and a new one taking shape through awakening. You don't need to prove your worth through victories. You only need to be present, clearly, fully, and truthfully. Because that presence alone is the most powerful invitation for others to recalibrate their own lives. You're not here to be celebrated. You don't need applause to keep going. You're here to live as a quiet example, that it's still possible to live honestly, to love deeply, and to believe in something greater than fear. And if you can do that, then your karma is no longer a burden. It becomes a legacy of light. There will be days when you're tired, days when you wish you could go back to being normal, but you can't, because you've already touched something real, and once you have, you can't go back to pretending. You're done merely existing. You want to live in sync with the true, untamed rhythm of your soul. And if there's only one sentence for you to carry with you on the road ahead, I'm going to be this. I wasn't born to fit in. I came to lead. With light, with truth, and with a heart that still dares to be.